Bam! CBC News Business. Now they're going to twist and spin it, but the headline is what really matters most. Well, not just. How Canada got into bed with tax havens. 1980 treaty with tiny Barbados paved way for billions to legally flow offshore. So, you've heard the bullshit. And like I say, I'm not a defender of conservatives. Government crony fucks conservatives. Genuine conservatives, yeah. Yeah, I like people, genuine conservatives. But anyways. Actually, I like genuine liberals, too. I guess that's why I'm a libertarian. Because I'll take the good of the liberals, the good of the conservatives, join them together, weed out all the bullshit, create proper philosophical principles with objective reason and logic as the base premise, with no contradictions, and that's basically what libertarians do. Anyways, guess who in 1980? Guess who they're talking about? As much as people, Harper, other fucker, you just take care of his crony cocksucking counterparts or the corporations. Well, guess what? Guess what, dumbasses? You know those liberals that you put in power? And who was running things in 1980? 1980. Oh, wait a minute. Wasn't that Trudeau Sr.? Because in 82 or so in and around there, it was the chartered rights, right? But wait a minute. Yeah, so it was probably Trudeau. Well, we know it was the Liberals, factually, that created these fucking situations for these tax havens. On a cold December afternoon in 1980, with MPs' voices echoing in the mostly empty chamber, the House of Commons debated a piece of legislation that had altered Canada's economy profoundly. Bill S2 aimed to ratify a series of taxation treaties between Canada and countries like Spain, Korea, Austria, and Italy. Also on the list, the tiny Caribbean island country of Barbados, population 250,000. Before the final vote was called, a fresh-faced Bob Rae, at the time the NDP's finance critic, rose to speak against it. Necktie askew, he warned that there had been precious little study of the consequences of signing a treaty that, like the one with Barbados, would drastically cut the tax rates for Canadian companies operating abroad. The government is entering into these tax treaties without being fully aware of the impact they will have on domestic taxation in Canada, Rae said. Money that is income and is not being taxed at the corporate level, on which the government receives no revenue, has the unfortunate effect of increasing the load of taxation on the average citizen. see, politicians are like, we should steal more from everybody. Should be more equal opportunist thieves, right? Whereas I'm like, people like myself, like, well, no, I don't want you stealing from corporations or me. Like that, I would be like, but like I said, it's like a positive and negative on a fucking magnet, completely opposing forces. Politicians want to rob from you. People that respect and understand human individual liberty don't want to do that shit. His protestations didn't stop the bill. In another hour of tepid debate, with a quick murmur of assent from the Liberal and Conservative MPs, the House passed it and was signed into law the next week. Fast forward to today, a tax haven is the number 3 destination for Canadian money going abroad. Corporations and wealthy Canadians have moved nearly $80 billion there, behind only the US and UK as an investment destination. There's more Canadian money parked in Barbados than in France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Russia combined. How's that for a revelation, folks? The Caribbean island is arguably where Canada first seriously waded into the waters of offshore legal tax avoidance. Canadian companies you might never expect, Petro-Canada, Loblaws, Eldorado Gold, have had affiliates there for years, while Canadian banks have branches on many street corners. Like I said, all these crony fucks, of course they avoid everything. It's only the lowly sheeple, the masses, the wage slaves, the serfs, the subjects, that have to pay for all that stuff. And you're all fucking so dumb and docile that you'll do it anyways. Barbados was like the entrance to the offshore network, said Alain Denon, a Quebec sociologist and university lecturer who has written several books about tax havens. You create a subsidiary in Barbados, you send that You send to that subsidiary some assets, and from there on, you may transfer the assets once more to another tax haven to another subsidiary where Canada has no link. Part of the draw is Barbados' corporate tax rate is between 1 and 2.5%. Man, don't I wish that the government could only steal between 1 and 2.5% of my wages, right? Or my wealth. Like, what the fuck? Only could us lowly fucking, whatever. I'm not a wage slave or serf, because I recognize it. I'm stuck in the trap because the rest of you are. But anyways, thanks to the 1980 tax treaty and leftover profits earned as a subsidiary based or linked to there can be brought back to Canada tax-free. So while Apple routes its non-U.S. profits through Ireland and into the British Virgin Islands to avoid taxes, and Google stashes its foreign earnings in Bermuda, the legal tax haven of choice for Canadian businesses' foreign operations for many years was Barbados. It meant potentially huge revenue losses for the Canadian government, which federal auditors general have taken pains to point out multiple times. In 1992, Auditor General Denis Desautels dedicated an entire section of his annual report to the schemes companies used to shrink their tax bills. He pointed to a company not named that shifted $318 million in investment to a subsidiary in Barbados. The investments earned $37 million in just 6 months, on which a sliver of income tax was paid to Barbados. The rest could be sent back to Canada tax-free and then paid out as dividends to the company shareholders, who themselves would enjoy generous dividend tax credits. Meanwhile, the parent company, having borrowed money to fund its subsidiary, deducted the interest it was paying as an expense and ended up with a loss on its books in Canada, so it paid no tax here. I mean, like I said, pure fucking cronyism. But like I said, if you read through this whole thing, well, I mean, it was even stated at the beginning part, but it was the Liberals. It was the Liberal government that introduced this. But yet you fucking idiots that were against the Conservatives, and like I said, I'm not a defender of the Conservatives in Canada, because they're just more cronies, right? But you were so mad at the Conservatives for their shit or the perception of the shit that they did, but you don't realize that it's the Liberals. I mean, why do you think the Liberals were relegated to third place? Put in the back of the fucking bus, because they're every bit, if not, actually, I think worse, and that's a stretch, than the Conservatives. But I believe that fully. If you did a measurement, if I had to make a wager, I'd say the Liberals are more corrupt than even the Conservatives in this country. But yet you fucking idiots, well, that's the thing. The young people, because they want free weed, right? Or, I mean, legalized weed. Right? Or the fucking government, corporate cronies, or the public sector unions. Of course they all voted. Or foreigners, not foreigners, but landed immigrants, or not landed immigrants, but people that care about that shit, about getting more free. All the people that like free stuff, or like to beg their masters for a little bit of freedom, yeah, they put the fucking Liberals back in power with a majority. I mean, what the fuck, idiots? You're going to see once again, I mean, how many people's lives, how much wealth, how much incentive, how many families have to suffer before you idiots realize how stupid it was to keep fucking picking what you perceive as lesser of evils, when in reality you pick the worst fucking evil of them all. I'm not a fan of picking any evils, because I think, well, they're all evil. But you idiots have a completely fucked up perception of how evil is. The Conservatives evil, I'll admit that. Well, I mean, any politician, any control freak or sociopath have to be inherently evil. That's just, yeah, 2 + 2 = 4. But thinking that the Liberals, that was going to be a good idea, what, because Shiny Boy or Pony Boy, or like he's putting on like he's some tough guy boxing, or I can't even pretend to understand, I can't even pretend to get in the mentality, other than thinking of just like the people that would vote for someone like Trudeau's, like when some, announcer pumping up the Leafs. Yeah, let's cheer for the Leafs. And then these are, yeah! You got a cheerleader, but reality over rhetoric. Leafs suck ass. They have for as long as I've been alive. And just like the Liberals, they're only going to rob you and plunder you, destroy incentive, proper values. But because they put on a shiny piney boy or a shiny pony boy, well, it's better than Stephen Harper, right? Whatever. Dumbasses. Dumbasses. Yeah, I'm done with this one. Canadian Libertarian. I love liberty.